And yet, there's not a Jewish organization on this campus that is supporting this speech. Whether you agree with it or not, if you're a Jew, you should understand that this is a speech to defend the Jews. It's an utter disgrace. So Sharon decided we're going to unilaterally, and of course Jews don't want to be occupiers. Why should they? They're too busy creating cell phones. It's the most creative, productive society on the face of the earth, which is also why the Arabs hate Israel. Because of their creativity and productivity. Because it shows how, what a blight Islam as it is currently interpreted is on the Arab world. There are 300 million Arabs, there are 5 million Finns, and Finland, if you take away the oil that God in one of his black moments put under the earth there, if you take away their oil, their gross national product is less than that of Finland. And why is that? Well, part of the reason is that they keep all their women ignorant. They can't go to college. One of the reasons they overthrew the Shah was because he allowed women to get educated in Iran. The Ayatollah didn't like that. So the illiteracy rates are humongous in the Arab world. No wonder they're backward. So Sharon decided we're going to remove this pretext for not signing a peace treaty. He misread the intentions. Okay, so they evacuated Gaza unilaterally. They also evacuated the 7,500 Jews who did not want to leave. They forcibly, that is Israel, forcibly removed the 7,500 Jews in Gaza. Why? Because they would have been massacred if he left them. Come on, this is not rocket science. What did those Jews do? Well, first of all, they were law-abiding. Yeah, they were Jews, they weren't Arabs. There are 1,200,000 Arabs, or 1,300,000, living in Gaza. The Jews, not only were they law-abiding, but they created a horticulture industry with greenhouses and irrigation and so forth. And they produced 10% of the entire gross national product of Gaza. Not a rich country. 10% is significant stuff. And if I may be self-critical about my own people, this is how sappy we Jews are. To make this peace gesture complete, to put the ribbons on it, Mortimer Zuckerman, the publisher of U.S. News, collected $14 million from Jewish philanthropists to buy the greenhouses and give it to the Palestinians or the Arabs, whatever you want to call them, of Gaza, as a peace gesture. On the day Hamas took over Gaza, on the day the Israelis left, Hamas destroyed the greenhouses, the irrigation, the whole industry, and started firing rockets into schoolyards in Sderot. 8,000 rockets have been fired. And what kind of rockets are they? They're not rockets that you hit a military installation with. They're incredibly inaccurate. They're just terrorist weapons against civilian populations. These are Nazis. That's who they are. And yet, on college campuses, we have people wringing their hands over the poor Gazans because after 3 years or whatever it was of accepting the unacceptable, how long do you think a country like America would allow, say Canada, to launch rockets into schoolyards in this country with no reprisal? But the Jews did it. And then when they struck back, all you hear on college campuses is people crying over civilians that were killed in the attack. Well, why were they killed in the attack? Well, Hamas put its headquarters under a hospital. Hamas installs its rockets in neighborhoods where people live. And you would think that there wouldn't be so many idiots in the West who would fall for this, but there are. You have to ask yourself. I mean, Israel is in pretty dire straits. Iran is 1,000 miles away. Israel does not have strategic bombers. It has fighters, fighter planes. Whether they can actually carry out the job of taking away the nuclear capabilities. Of course, if you believe that Iran is building these nuclear sites for medical isotopes, I'm not going to get through to you. Israel is in a very hard place. A lot of it its own doing. Arafat was in exile in Tunisia. The Jews brought him back, armed his terrorists with 40,000 weapons. And that's because people, you know, it's the hopey-changey thing. People wish, the wish is father to the thought. People want things to be better. They don't want to face the fact that there is evil in this world.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
How is it that on our college campuses, and I will tell you that on our college campus, you can't even get the information. We've given out a pamphlet called Muslim Hate Groups on Campuses. I tried to place an ad for that pamphlet in, it's about 20 or 30 college papers. I actually got it into one at Ohio State. Of course, there was a big eruption. Read the pamphlet. It's just facts. It's just facts. The Muslim Students Association, Students for Justice in Palestine, these are Muslim Brotherhood groups, SDS and the politically brain-dead campus left, are all out there making apologies for Palestinian evil. You know, if you think that this is, I'm always get accused, it's an abstraction. You can't say all Palestinians. Where's the Palestinian peace now? Where is the Palestinian one standing up in the West Bank and Gaza, or for that matter in the United States, for the rights of Jews? There are hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of Jews who are standing up for the rights of Palestinians. It's all about intentions. It's all about the culture. And Palestine is a culture of hate. Oh, well, the reason that they have suicide bombers is they're desperate. The Israelis have tanks. Look, people have been oppressed in this world for thousands of years, horribly oppressed. But never, ever in the history of mankind has an oppressed people strapped bombs on its own children and sent them to blow themselves up with other children. And then tells them that if they're lucky enough to be male, they're going to go to heaven and get 72 virgins. That is sick. Gaza is a death cult. And the death cult is created in Gaza by Hamas, a similar death cult in the West Bank by the PLO. They lionize murderers of children, deliberate murderers of children. Well, that is somewhat redundant, since to murder somebody, you have to have the intent to do it. Who goes around trying to kill purposely targeting little children, except psychopaths? And they have institutionalized, whatever that is, psychopathic behavior in Palestine, all of it. You can see it on the web. It's really easy. You watch these people preaching it. You see the little kids they're dressed up like suicide bombers. I actually saw a really good documentary on HBO. It was called The Death in Gaza. It's done by liberals. And they followed these kids who were 12 and 13 years old, who were hanging around Hamas and aspiring to be suicide bombers. And they wrote poems in their class about becoming a suicide bomber. A very, very sad picture. One of the kids, I forget the incident, but he was participating in something with Hamas, and he got hurt, but seriously. And then he's a little kid, before he's boasting to be a suicide bomber, and then he's a 12-year-old in pain, screaming, bleeding all over this hospital table. They showed there was another sequence where they're playing scissors rock, the terrorist, Hamas terrorist, with the 12-year-old. And they're playing scissors rock,
Paper.
Paper, thank you. And then when the kid goes out or goes back home, the filmmaker interviews the terrorist and says, I see, you use this kid as a runner and a lookout. Is that a little dangerous for a 12-year-old? I mean, he could get killed. And the answer of the terrorist who was just playing with him, oh, we have thousands of kids like that. They're just expendable. We didn't use that last, but that was the implication. In the end of the film, the filmmaker actually gets killed. Nobody knows who killed him, but in the night he gets shot. But they have a sequence, and they show the kids afterwards, after they come through the terrible experience of being in pain, and they've been hanging around with these filmmakers, and they ask them now what they want to be, and they say, filmmakers. That's how sick it is. This is a whole society geared to bringing up its children to kill Jews. Now, why is the left? I've talked to, these are not stupid kids. They're very bright kids, actually. When you talk to, why have they been sucked into this? I'm just puzzling how I got myself in this little corner here, because I don't want to give a whole, I should come to the end of this talk, but I need to tell you how I see it. I grew up in the left. My parents were communists. I was one of the founders of the New Left. So I have a fairly educated insight into what goes on in the mind of a leftist and how it can link them to the Palestinians, this Palestinian cause. There is no right in the Palestinian cause. The Palestinian cause would be right if it were directed against Hamas and Hezbollah and the PLO and the Arab states. Then you could support it. But it's directed against the Jews, who are the victims of a 60-year war to exterminate them. That's basically what it is. And I should have pointed out that there is this link between the left, because, as I say, the slogan of the PLO was push the Jews into the sea until the KGB stepped in. The KGB ran Arafat, or the KBG, I should put it, the lieutenant colonel, whatever they call themselves, who ran Arafat. His name is Pachepa, and he's written a whole book on this. The KGB said, you're never going to get anywhere by saying push the Jews into the sea. You have to be for self-determination. You have to be the underdog. And so the PLO became the underdog seeking self-determination. Of course, if you understand the historical realities, you can see it's a lie. Because Jordan, as I say, is 60, 70% Palestinian, and it's ruled by someone else. But there's no movement to liberate Jordan. And then you put that together with, they always find something, you know, Clinton and Ehud Barak, you know, gave the store away in 2000. They gave whatever it was, 95%. Now 95% is a hell of a lot of what you're demanding, considering you have been in an aggressive war against the person that, or the country or the nation that's offering you the 95%, which they reject. The left, of course, it appeals to young people because changing the world is such an attractive idea. The world is full of misery. Everywhere you look, if you look, there's misery. Abuses of children, abuses of dogs and cats and horses. Everywhere you look, there's misery. If you could change the world, who wouldn't want to do it? But look at the enterprises to change the world in the 20th century. Nazism was such an enterprise.